Welcome to this episode of
It's the crazy man, crazy lookalike, crazy simple, crazy show.
today's episode, the progression of the Z to D. So when we're young, we learned that there's like two ways to draw a 2. You can either draw like the plain boring one like this, or you can draw the fancy curly cute one. And for a really long time, it doesn't really matter which one you use because you're just drawing like 2s no matter what. But eventually you start using variables and Z comes around. And then you notice, hey, this plain old 2, if you draw it lazier and lazier, looks like a Z! And then you're faced with a serious dilemma because a 2 is not a Z, and the only way that I can find to remedy it is to draw the little line through the Z, which I didn't used to do until I got into Calculus 3 and had to use Z all the time. But even if you do always draw a line through your Z's, every once in a while you're going to be looking back through your notes and see a little squiggle and be like, wait, is that a 2 or a Z? So I know what you're thinking, Courtney. Story, just draw the curly Q2. And you see, that might work if there wasn't this like partial derivative thing with this weird like squiggly thing. And if you look at it, it looks just like a curly Q2. So now you're saying like, okay, so just make it look a little bit more like a D. Make that partial sign like straighten out a little bit so it doesn't curve quite the same way a 2 does. And so you try that, but then you realize it looks too much like a D because we use D's when we're taking like regular derivatives. And dz dx is not the same thing as partial z partial x. And partial z partial x is certainly not the same thing as 2z over 2x. And 2z over 2x is so different from like 22 over 2x. So basically, it's a problem. Thus concludes this episode of
It's the crazy man, crazy lookalike, crazy simple, crazy show.
Hey, Courtney. So now that we've got that done with,
It's the story of Courtney Zanetti show.
I can actually tell you about the rest of my week. And for my video today, I actually made a
It's a chart, it has stop.
And it's on a clipboard.
So that was a thing that I did. So I had this whole plan about how I was going to tell you about this math test that I took that I did really well on, especially in comparison to the math test that I took earlier this year that I did really poor on, and the in-class essay that I wrote for English that wasn't like a real in-class essay because we had to bring in a sheet of paper with us and had our thesis and all of our quotes picked out already, and the C++ project that I did was like shuffling and dealing cards and it was like poker, and it was really cool and it was hard to compile at first, but then I got it and it was awesome, and I had to reverse engineer my pseudocode because I didn't actually write it beforehand like I was supposed to, but the crazy math lookalike symbol show took longer than I thought. So, moving on. So I got this email about this opportunity for tutoring high school kids in like math and science and stuff, and I like replied to them and I was like, I'm interested, and they were like, send in a resume, and I did, and they were like, you have a very impressive resume, you've got a lot of the qualities that we're looking for, can you do an interview on Sunday? And I was like, yeah, I can do an interview on Sunday, and it pays like $15 to $20 an hour, and they said that they like work with your schedule, and it's tutoring, and I like tutoring, and I wanted to tutor, and now I get to, and it's gonna be really cool, and I really hope that I get it. And of course, Happy Halloween!
It's the story of Courtney Zanetti show.
But so the interview's Sunday, and it's going to be intense, like camping.